All right. Welcome to the latest Amari Music Talk. I'm Richard
Yes.
Cole, and with me this episode is the drummer extraordinaire, artist extraordinaire, Mr. PC Munoz. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again. It's great to see you. I can't wait to dig into this. I got
Yeah,
I got this right
today,
there.
there it is. We're talking Cameo's Style album from nine,
Kapow.
yeah, from 1983.
Wow.
And I know we were talking before the show just about how just kind of this particular album just got lost in the shuffle. Because I think for a lot of people, Cameosis is like the go-to
For a
Cameo
lot of
album.
people. For a
Yeah.
lot of people. For sure.
Yeah. And of course, props to Alligator Woman, which is the album before this one. And that had some major hits. But just kind of for me, what was going on in 1983, it just got lost in the shuffle. For me, I remember Style being on the radio, the title track, but then not a lot was going on. And I know like 83 Thriller was kind of gaining momentum.
Still. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that? Of course, Prince 1999, that album was kind of winding down, that tour. The times what time is it, that was kind of winding down. Plus, you had the fire in the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, but then they dropped the SOS band with their production of Just Be Good to Me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess that album On the Rise, that was out. And
Yeah, that was out.
yeah. And for me, that spring and summer of 83, I think what was dominant was, I think to me, was that Solar Records Last Gasp, kind of with,
Right.
yeah, Shalimar's The Look.
Dead
Uh,
giveaway.
yeah, that track. The big one for me was Lakeside with Untouchables with that track
Mm-hmm.
Rave. So I was remember kind of
Yes.
bumping that a whole lot.
Yes, that's true. That's a good observation about sort of the like last hurrah of of Solar, you know, right towards it. Because I mean, in terms of R&B, especially here in California, I'm not sure. It sounds like they were hitting out there in the Midwest too.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it was just their stuff was just all over the place, and I loved it. I still love Leon Silver's bass playing and production
yes,
style.
yeah,
It's been a big influence on me, and just I love that whole story of the label. I picked up that box set. They have a little box set.
oh,
I
there's
can't
a
remember, like 3 or 4 disc set or something. I was in LA one day and I'd never seen it anywhere else. And I was in a record store in LA and I saw this little box set of Solar. I was like, well,
ah,
I gotta get this. It's a very cool thing. Has everything you want. The thing I was looking for was the reel to reel track because
oh,
I
see, I
used to,
forgot about you, right.
yeah, and reel to reel was I really liked that. I loved it when it came on the radio, and it was like to see that on CD. You know how it is when you just find something. It's like, oh, I can hear this again. You could go to YouTube and stuff, but to bump it
But
in, your home
mhm.
stereo, your car, whatever. So I was really happy. This was in the early 2000s when I saw this kid and I saw that set. 'Cause I loved that label
Mm,
and admired what they were doing so much.
yeah, it's nice, but yeah, but all of that was going on in '83. The Style album by Cameo that dropped April 11th of that
April
year. So
11th. Okay.
so like I said, kind of um again, yeah, like I said, it was still bumping the time, 1999 Thriller. Let's see, I think what let's see, Atomic Dog
Yeah, Atomic
that
Dog
that was still
still
dominating
going.
radio
Yeah, I don't
at early
think
point.
April 11th. Not to that's 40 years. Wow. Um,
Damn.
Almost to the day, right? We're
Yeah,
just a little bit off. Um, yeah, I can't. I mean, Atomic Dog is from uh, computer games, right? No,
right, right.
yes, computer games. But I don't think that next one. You shouldn't have bit fish. What year did Bitfish come out?
Was that 83,
Like later 83, right?
83, 84? Yeah.
Yeah. because I definitely, you know how they all sort of blur together and like I don't
Mm.
remember. I mean, in my head, I'm thinking Nubian Nut and stuff is later, like after, yeah, like maybe. No, no, but I could be totally wrong. As you know, you get memory distortions
I
as you
know
get older.
the Mandela effect
Yeah,
is
did
taking
that
hold.
happen? Is that person alive?
Huh? Oh yeah. It's like, wait a minute, no, I thought that movie came out in 78. What do you mean it
Yeah,
came out in 85?
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, how could I be so wrong in
Right.
my
I was
memory?
there.
Yeah, I know it, and I was holding this and this, and I saw it with so and so. No, you didn't. That didn't happen.
It really didn't.
Yeah, it's funny. I have this. Did you see that project I did it for Berkeley Art Museum a couple years ago called "I Remember Her"?
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which is, it's exactly that. It's about um, how, your personal memories, especially now in today's over documented time, like
Hmm.
how will our storytelling be affected? Because, if I'm telling you something, yeah, and this, you can Google, well, this didn't, that, well, actually, that didn't happen.
Happened.
Yeah, that concert did not take place in
It was
Oakland. They were, oh, but I remember being in Oakland that day. Actually, that did not happen.
happened
Yeah, because you can fact check stuff so easily now.
so
So
easily. Yeah.
it's funny, but yeah, I can't remember about shit you shouldn't have been fish, but I feel to me it feels like it came a little bit later, like after this.
Mhm.
Um, but for sure, I agree with you about that being a interesting year because the early '80s were a great time for R&B
Yeah.
and evolving R&B and using different instruments and trying different things. And then right here, this is pre Purple Rain.
Yeah.
you know, Prince. We didn't know what Prince was doing. Just fans. We didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
We would, go to the 1999 tour, and you knew he was building a little empire, but you had no idea he was making a movie in
Movie like
Minneapolis. So
right.
yeah,
Yeah. I know.
so,
I know there was that Rolling Stone cover, him and Vanity, in that
yeah,
article. Even though, yeah, it didn't have an interview, but it, to me, it encapsulated that whole Prince, myth or
yeah.
mythology with that. But yeah, I mean, again, it was just so much great music. Um, and then with Cameo, you had Cameos. I think that still had like the horn section
Yeah, big
still,
group on the cover.
right? Which then that got pared down, kind of scaled down to like a 5-piece group with Alligator Woman.
Yeah, and I mean they were still big on Feel Me and Nights at Sun Table. Still have big group,
Right.
lots of people on the cover. I
Yeah.
really like Feel Me personally. Um,
Yeah. I remember because I think at that time, like Cameosis was so huge that it was hard to kind of, you go to whatever the record store or the record department in like a famous bar or something, which is at the time I think it was owned by Macy's here in St. Louis. But every time I would go look for Cameosis, it would just be Knights of the Sound Table. And I think everything prior to that, I mean, it was always hard. It was always hard
Secret
to find.
Omen, stuff like that, like
Right.
rigor mortis.
Everything but whatever was current.
Yeah, you know what? That's funny you bring that up. I remember that. I remember you would go look for a certain thing, it would be not there, and you would go, "Where's the one I'm looking
Looking
for?"
for.
Because because of your age or whatever it is, you're like, I don't want that. I'm looking for the one with shake your pants on it.
I tell
Uh,
you, just kind of off topic, man. Funkin' Telekey versus the
mm,
placebo. That took me the longest to get it because every time, and this is before I started going to a local place like Hudson's Embassy
yeah,
because they were kind of more, it was mom and pop record store.
I've seen
And
pictures of that store. Is it still around?
there's like one location and
Okay.
it's supposed to be open, but I don't know, I don't know. I might have to check it out one day, but but there used to be one like 4 blocks from my house.
Okay.
So, but before then, being a younger kid, going like downtown with my grandmother, and like I said, one of the stops was Famous Bar, and I think they had like as for a department store, probably the best record department.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. You said inside of a Macy's?
Well, it was owned by Macy's.
Okay, owned by Macy's. Okay.
Macy's, yeah. I think like in God, I think like in the '90s, Macy's just took it all over,
Oh,
and
okay. All right.
just instead of Famous Bar, it was Macy's there.
Okay.
But yeah, but Funkadelic, it was always that one I was trying to look for, and it was never there. It would always be the P-Funk Earth tour.
Okay.
And I
Which
was
is
like
cool.
you say, but like I said, when you're 11, 12, it's like you're not really thinking like, oh, I need to get the whole collection. It's like,
No, you're not. It's not an option. So, it's
well,
not
it's
an
like,
option with your little dollars there.
well, it's like, well, wait, is Flashlight on this album? What's going on?
Yeah, it's
I don't
very
see
confusing.
it. But yeah, but I think but I think with '83, like I said, with Hudson's Embassy, you had that better selection of records. So to get something like Style, it was easier to get because I think they were just, more on the ball with, or more in touch with what was going on with the public.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun. Yeah, it's funny that memory that you bring up because I definitely remember that going to your local place and there's limited options.
Yeah,
they can't stock 60 units of everything.
right.
They have a certain amount, especially in those department stores, where it's like they get a certain allotment for what they think that demographic is going to buy.
Right.
And so you go there, and if it's gone, it's gone. You're not getting it. There's no like going to a computer and Googling it and have it sent to your house.
Right. Or they got a computer there and, oh, yeah, we'll get this and we'll hold it for you.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Nah.
And that's what made it kind of fun. It's like the back then going to record shops was a little treasure hunt. Because you have certain things you're looking for. If you score them, you'd be happy, and then you might find something that you've never heard of, and then you got a chance to try. Or sometimes you find something. I think I told you this story about finding a Maga Brain for 50 cents.
Oh wow!
Some shop and I bringing it to the counter, and the guy looking like I changed the price tags on it. He's like, what is this?
What's
I'm like, it was in your bargain bins. And he calls the manager like, and they found some little scratch on one of the songs. They're like, I guess that's why we put it in there, and they let me take it.
Oh, nice. Did scratch affect the playability?
Nope.
Nope. Sweet. Like, nope.
Nope. It was great.
Yeah. But yeah, but Style. Like I said, I think ever since we decided to do this as a topic, just kind of going back and listening to it and kind of getting my memory refreshed for it. Like I said, I had just forgotten, Style was getting a lot of radio play. But then, it just struck me just how strong this album was compared to, say, Alligator Woman, or even, She's Strange after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of, it's a lot of gems on this one.
It is an underheralded album for sure, and probably my favorite Cameo album, which is we on a different show we had talked about that, and for me it's a big one. I think the songs are really great, really inventive vocal arrangements. I love Larry Blackman just committing himself to the electronic drum kit and sounding really, really good on them.
Yeah,
which most people sounded really clunky on them. They just, because they were clunky, but somehow he played them with a fluidity all over this record that is kind of like no one else to me, in my opinion. Like I don't think anybody played those electronic kits that early on that well, like Larry.
Yeah, I would say even because it brings to mind Moore's Day's Color of Success. Because he's playing a lot of Simmons drums.
Oh, is he? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think I even realized that. I gotta go check that out. I'm gonna revisit that for those sounds. That's another great drummer.
Oh yeah,
Funky drummer. But a lot of people sound clunky on including some of the ones that some of the jazz drummers that were trying to do stuff with it, and rock cats that were doing stuff. They were pretty clunky, but Larry went from, he didn't even have a clunky, he went straight to funky.
Yeah, there you go.
You know,
Nice.
and the tom work is really cool, and the types of rhythms he's doing like that. There's a piece on there called "Slow Moving" that I just love that groove. It's so nasty, and so it's just so, to me, was one of the best examples of a funk feel. Just incredible. It's a really incredible piece. And
My name is Joe.
Yeah, and I take everything
Slow.
And Tommy Jenkins and Charlie Singleton singing their asses off on this record. Just really nice, just really, really pretty singing, and that can't excuse me, Can't Help Falling in Love cover. It's beautiful. It's just like it's just a really nice. I did a version of, I did like a funny, for my parents' 50th anniversary. I was working with Mark Weibel, was a guitarist that's worked with Richard and I in the past, and a bassist named Eric Thomas. We did, for my parents' 50th anniversary, we did this little trio, and we did Can't Help Falling in Love because it's from my parents' era, but we did the Cameo arrangement. And I remember like showing it to those guys, going, I don't want to do the Elvis version or the Flesh for Lulu, not Flesh for Lulu. I'm sorry.
There's a UB40 covered it too.
I think they did, but somebody else covered it, and I like it. I'm not knocking any of the other versions. There was a cover in, I think, Some Kind of Wonderful, that was very cool, kind of new wavy. But I was like, I don't want to do those. I want to do the Cameo. It's just a real sweet version. It has cool stuff on it, and there's some nice synths on there. Nice. It's just it's an inventive record from an inventive time, and really, it's under-heralded to me.
Oh yeah. I think what struck me about it as I was, revisiting it, not only did you have the funk, but just these layers underneath the funk, like you pointed out with, Tommy and Charlie doing the vocals, nice melodic vocals, very melodic synth strings underneath, to where it's not, it doesn't sound programmed. It sounds more organic. It has ebbs and flows, and each song seems to kind of take you on a journey. It's almost more jazz-like to me when I listen to it.
Yeah, that is to me too, like there's certain things in there, and definitely Larry Blackmon is a sophisticated musician.
Yes.
And and again, under-heralded in that realm. And you're right, it has that kind of feel. And he even says that on the back, right? He says Cameo's music is 20th century bebop. Wait, no, he says 21st century bebop. He says it somewhere in there, like here it is. The new age sound, thank God. Cameo's music is 21st century bebop.
Yes.
I think he was definitely looking forward and saying, hey, how can we keep things moving? Heaven Only Knows, that's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
That's a really beautiful song. Aphrodisiac is great. I saw them live in at the San Francisco Yoshi's. Yoshi's, for those out there who aren't from the Bay Area, Yoshi's is a legendary venue in Oakland, and briefly there was one in San Francisco as well. And one of the more recent versions of Cameo came and did a show, maybe 2012, 2013, and they did, I want to say they did this Life Is Not For Me. And
okay.
They did one of those songs. I don't think it was Aphrodisiac. And I just was like so happy. I was so happy. And I saw Tommy briefly after the show, and just said hello and acknowledged that I was happy to hear that. It was great to hear the band. It was a very, very cool show. It must have been, it's 2013, I think. And I was glad to see that they didn't leave that album off of their set, just because it wasn't a big hit in the record world.
Right.
because a lot of musicians like myself and yourself and you, we like this stuff. You know, there's a lot of really, really cool things on there, um, and interesting rhythms. I'm like looking at. Let's not talk slot. It's kind of like a new wavy thing, sort of alligator womanish, right?
Yep.
Um, and but yeah, for me, it's that those first three songs, and definitely like "You're a Winner" has that
Yeah.
jazzy vibe. You know, like those first three songs are really strong, and then and then "Can't Help Falling in Love," as we talked about, is really pretty. And then there's that kind of ambient kind of ending to side one. One thing is I've never experienced this as a CD. It's so freaking
Me
expensive
neither.
because it's like
Yeah.
$300 on eBay or something. And I love the album, but I have it on vinyl, so, and I've already transferred it to digital
Got
to
it.
my
Okay.
vinyl. But at some point, I'll save the pennies and pick it up on CD. But I have it. I have a digital form of it. Um, but I haven't. But I haven't heard it like like in a car stereo or like in a CD player, like just listening to
Yeah.
it.
I've
Start
listened to it
to finish.
on streaming.
Is it
But
streaming?
yeah.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
haven't even looked for that because I usually just go to where I transferred it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So I haven't done like an A and B comparison between that and the vinyl. But I mean, I like the sounds on the streaming.
that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll go check that out. Because when I want to hear it, I just go to my iPod or my turntable.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's the thing, and kind of why I wanted to kind of go in a different direction, from the Prince stuff.
yeah,
Like I said, there's still a lot of Prince stuff to cover, but it's kind of a given despite what's going on these days. But there's been box sets, with the Sign of the Times 1999.
yeah.
The classic albums have been reissued. But you have these groups like Cameo, like Zap, the Gap Band,
Hmm.
where their remastered CDs, where's their, catalog, not only for, newer generations, but, musicians like us that would like to have, in
Hmm.
addition to the vinyl, have it
Yeah,
on CD.
yeah. Like Jerry Knight stuff has never been put back out on CD that I've ever seen,
Right.
and that's a big one for me. Like, where's his stuff? Where's Perfect Fit? I would
Yeah.
like to have Perfect Fit on a CD. You know, um, even some of Michael Henderson's stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Um, Fickle. I would like Fickle on CD.
the
Uh, well, that might be out on CD, but there's some stuff that's that I would like to hear that remastered version. Definitely Jerry Knight and a few other people too. That you're like, hey, um, well, yeah, exactly. Where are those remasters? And I would love, love, love. And I'm sure there's there's biz concerns. Like, 'cause I remember asking Tommy Jenkins once on a Facebook message or something. Are there any plans for like a style remaster or re-release? And um, I think there's business concerns and stuff.
who owns the
Yeah, who owns
masters
what
and
and how they're gonna do it and who's gonna do what. I don't remember exactly what his response was, but I had the feeling it was one of those things that's like um, left in the hands of things that are contracts and stuff like that. And,
right. Now, was
um,
this the excuse me, was this the first um Cameo album that wasn't on, let's see, I know they were kind of, let's see, Chocolate City was like a subsidiary of Casablanca,
yeah, yeah,
and then this was the first one, because I know
Polygram.
my label says, let's see, Atlanta Artists.
Yeah, which is I think Larry Blackman's thing, right?
That was his label.
Yeah,
And then it was of course, I guess, through Polygram Records.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's the first time I saw Atlanta artists. I don't think that's on Alligator Woman,
Right. I think, yeah, Alligator was the last
Chocolate
one that was at
City.
Chocolate City.
Yeah, so they moved over here. Maybe that has something to do with with
Right.
the remastering stuff.
Who owns the masters now?
Yeah, because I mean, well, they put out somebody put out a Japanese re-release, and I got the Japanese re-release of Feel Me.
Okay.
And it's cool, and I'm really glad to have those songs. It was one of those ones where sometimes your parents will notice what you're listening to and get into it. I remember my mom was into the roller skate song on that record, on the Feel Me record. There's one called Rollers, because that was a big thing at the time.
Late 70s,
yeah, late 70s, and I used to jam even the album. 80s. Yeah, exactly. Even into the early 80s, people were doing that, and it captured a real good time. And I was obsessed with Keep It Hot. I was completely obsessed with that song. I just played it over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, kind of like
so nasty.
Yeah, that's the thing again with Cameo. We talk about P-Funk, although that, to me, P-Funk was more 70s. Even though you had George Clinton still doing something in the 80s, and then you had the P-Funk All-Stars, and they were still kind of keeping that funk mob movement going there. And like I said, we talk so much about Prince, we talk about the time, but like you were saying earlier about the magic of the early 80s. Again, I even did an episode, the 4 greatest 80s funk bands, which is the Time, Cameo, Zap, and the Gap Band. Which 3 of those I've seen live. I kind of regret I have not seen Cameo.
Oh wow, I've seen all those artists live.
I keep trying to go back and again to get that Mandela effect. Like, okay, I know I've seen them. I had to have seen them.
But you didn't.
Now come on, they were on that bill with Morris Day.
Yeah, Midnight Star. Yeah, I saw Gap Band with Atlantic Star, and sandwiched in between them was Jeffrey Osborne, who I was like, okay, so they got these big bands, Atlantic Star, which was a real, they had a lot of people on stage at the time,
right?
And Gap Band, they're a lot more than the brothers on stage,
right?
There's a whole bunch of other musicians, but in between, I was like, oh, that's interesting. They got this, kind of R&B singer right in the middle, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I liked his stuff, and of course, I respected him a lot. He's a drummer and great singer, but he was spectacular.
Oh yeah,
he was really good. I was blown away by Jeffrey Osborne actually. That he came, but I was like, it makes sense. He was with LTD. Of course, he knows how to rock a huge stadium in Oakland.
Right.
Like he had no problems doing that. And it's not that I thought he would. It's just that you're a kid. You're thinking, oh, I'm gonna see these funk bands tonight. But there's going to be an R&B singer right in the middle.
Here's the woo woo woo.
Yes, the woo woo woo. And I was like, I guess that's cool. Like I like his stuff. I'll check him out. But I was like even a bigger fan after I saw him live. I was like, man.
Yeah.
And then much later, you realize, you're the dummy. Like, of course. All those years with LTD. How would he not be very, very good live?
Right.
So, but you're a kid, you're stupid, you don't really know what's happening.
Yeah, what did we know?
We didn't know anything. Not that we know more now, but just one clue more, I guess.
It was amazing, just kind of that light bulb moment, like, oh, okay, 1982, I get it.
Yeah, that was a really good, really fun show to see. It was just nonstop, really good vibes on the music. And I remember my friend Jesse, he got a big, huge Gap Band hat. It's like a trucker hat, but it said Gap Band 5.
Now I'll tell you with the Gap Band, I saw them in '82, and Zap was on that bill as well, and it was like right before the second Zap album was about to drop. I think, if I remember it correctly. But I love the first Zap album, and I kind of like some of the stuff on the Roger solo album. But I was there to see the Gap Band. But I'm telling you,
me too. Man, that show, totally.
Yeah, but man, by the time Zap got through with that stage,
yeah,
that's that's when they got elevated to, like I said, the top 4 funk bands of the 80s for me.
Yeah,
Because I
Travel
mean, Roger
Family
puts on
didn't
a
mess around.
they put on the show.
Yeah, they knew how to do it. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, not that the Gap Band wasn't representing, because I was still, you know, digging the Gap Band after that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still trying to rack my brain. Like, I know I've seen Cameo. I know I have.
So let me ask you this. I know. You know, I'm not the host, but I do got to throw this back at you. Um, what do you think it is about? Put Cameo aside for a second. What do you think it is about the Midwest and funk? What is it? What you know? The Bootsy, Prince. You know, I mean, Oklahoma. Do we call Oklahoma the Midwest? Does the Midwest claim Oklahoma?
Kind of, but yeah,
Yeah, sort of,
yeah,
right? In
yeah,
some ways. But what is that? There's all this like funk coming out of the Midwest,
right. Like Ohio, that's
like
the
Ohio.
the funk
Yeah,
capital of the world. I mean, everybody was from Ohio
everybody.
players,
Yeah, Bootsy.
Bootsy.
Like,
Well,
what do
King
you think?
Records,
What
James
do you think
Brown
it
recorded.
is?
With that aside, I think you have where, I don't know, I'm trying to get a little historical and philosophical here, but uh I think it goes back to that kind of that migration from the South.
Okay, so related to Great Migration
Right,
movements. Okay, yeah,
right.
that would make
So,
sense, right? Yeah,
right, because you had brothers and sisters coming out of the deep South trying to get away from everything going on there. And then
yeah,
you have this sort of rise in the industrial jobs, like the steel mills in
yeah.
Indiana, the car companies in Detroit. So I think that sort of feel, that sort of, yeah, I guess that atmosphere mixed in with the influences of this new city life.
Right. That makes
Yeah,
a lot of sense.
right.
Uh,
Um,
Great Migration stories infuse so much music, right?
right.
We talk about that out here in California with folks coming from Louisiana and so forth and bringing the blues to like Oakland, where it
Right. And
becomes, you
coming
know,
right out of Texas
coming out of
too. Moving.
Texas, coming out of
Yeah,
Louisiana, and bringing deep blues stuff here, which
exactly.
becomes forms of funk and becomes early hip hop and on this end of the country. Um, but that makes a lot of sense. Like people coming from the South and bringing the blues and bringing other sorts of folk forms up, and then exactly mixing it in with that city life, and
Right.
and
Yeah.
out comes funk. You know,
Yeah. And, and kind of make it more personal,
Mhm.
here in St. Louis, there were, I think there still are, but there were, like, for me, I remember like 4 major black radio stations, 2 on AM and then 2 on FM. And you got, I don't know, for a city that was kind of late in a lot of other areas, but when it came to the music, it for some reason it had its pulse. But I think that's more of a testament to the DJs that we
Right,
had
right.
back then. Rest in peace to Dr. Jockenstein. DJs like that they had their pulse on what was going on
Yeah, they knew
musically.
exactly, right?
Right.
It's
They would
fun.
break those. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting to think about those times like when the DJs would be, curators of a sort, and like find those artists and put them on and champion certain people,
oh yeah,
like and be like,
yeah.
hey, this artist is worth checking out. It's wow. It's hard to explain to a young musician now who can have worldwide or provide worldwide access to their music, like in an hour
Yeah.
after they record it,
Yeah.
or minutes
Yeah,
really.
get that, get your CD baby account and
Yeah, and then become
yeah,
glam, off of
yeah.
it. It can be heard by anybody. Whether it will get heard is a whole other story.
It's a whole,
But
yeah, it's still a lot of work.
yeah, but the opportunity is there.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a good point. And thank you for being patient with my little sidebar question
Oh
there.
no,
But
hey, thank you for the question.
I think you got it. I think that's
Yeah,
probably
thank you.
exactly it. Um, Makes a lot of sense. But back to
Back to
style.
style. I
And I
mean,
guess,
yeah,
but I was just looking at the cover, like it just brings back the time so much. Not the group, the time, but the, like look at this
it's it's
kind of
it's a
minimalist,
it's such a 80s.
so 80s. It's so 80s, like just this and
It
this.
is.
It's
This is
everything
pre.
about it.
This is pre Miami Vice.
Right. This is pre
Oh, don't
Miami
forget
Vice,
the back cover. Yeah.
but you can see what
Up
they're
and then
wearing
the
there.
yeah the yep, the sleeveless t-shirts with the parachute pants. Yeah, I gotta admit there was a period in around 84. I
Uh,
too
you too.
had
Yeah,
to
the sleeveless T-shirts. Yes, I
yeah.
remember that. Um, yeah, and I remember noticing as a fan, because you know when you're a fan and you're not a professional musician yet, you don't know why like suddenly there's way less people on the cover, or you don't know. You just go, oh, I guess there's fewer people now. Like you don't know what happened. All you know that's what you're being given,
Right.
and then you look at the credits and you see who's doing stuff. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
you notice um, Charlie Singleton doing a lot of things, playing vocals, guitars, bass,
Hmm.
keyboards. Um, and then Kevin Kendrick, who went on to do, I think, more stuff with them for a while, right? I remember seeing his name on other things.
Hmm.
Um, but it is like a little mini dream come true to talk about the album in depth like this, because I always,
Yes.
if I get around funk fans, I always bring it up. And again, if I get around members of Cameo, I tell them if when I can, I love that record because it's so unique, and because of the drum sounds and the vocal arrangements. Um, it's really a treat to think about it in this way, and it's a treat and a trip
True.
to
Yes.
think of it as 40 years old, because to me it was such a fresh sounding thing when it came out,
And yeah, it's still,
and
to me, it still holds up.
it holds up. You put it on loud, it's like it has this great feel to it. I love hearing those electronic sounds, but knowing by hearing that someone played them.
Yes. Yeah.
Somebody played the parts, and you can just hear it. As I always appreciated Larry Blackman's drumming, um, but hearing him play on these kind of kit, that kind of kit,
Yeah.
electronic kit.
Yeah, I wonder what his approach to that. Was it a certain way they had to be tuned, or
Yeah, I don't know.
was it
I have no
something?
idea.
Is it something that you could either switch on or off or disable to where it doesn't
Right,
sound so mechanical that it lets you play more of
right.
a
What he messed with to make it happen,
right?
I have no idea. Because you listen to a lot of stuff, other things from that era, and it's pretty clunky, and yeah, it just doesn't sound that good. But for sure, his playing on it, and then yeah, going go a little deeper on the next record, on the She's Strange album, where I'm assuming he's playing that kit on electronic kit on She's Strange. Um, he's feeling very at home, but even on this record, it already sounds very at home, and his style, which is again very sophisticated.
Mm-hmm.
His style,
Style.
no pun intended, but his drumming style is sophisticated and has elements of jazz and of different kind of rhythms from Africa, and just other sorts of things that he kind of pulls in, and in addition to straight out just funk rhythms, and the instruments. I don't think there are any. He liked to use a lot of organic percussion instruments in the early days.
Yeah.
You would hear them all over the first records, and I don't think those sounds are so much on here because of the years.
Yeah, I think if you listen on streaming,
Oh, you
there
can
are
hear
some
some of them.
nuances that come out.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
where
I'll check
there's
that out.
and really, and it really adds to the
Oh,
track,
nice. Okay.
which is why I'd say, again, something like this deserves a remaster, both vinyl and CD.
Yeah, I think that would be great because I think we can't be the only people clamoring to hear this record, you know, in a remastered form for today's ears, you know.
Right. Well, I think
Great record.
the record industry and just kind of where things are. Um, of course, there's going to be focus on whatever the next Beatles thing is going to be, or McCartney archive collection, things like that. Hendrix, they still come out with stuff
Mm-hmm.
on Jimmy's music. Still, after what 30 some odd years now, them.
Yeah, still come putting stuff out. The McCartney reissues and box sets are really phenomenal, like in terms of the thoroughness, right? I was just listening to the McCartney 2 reissue with the extra audio, these long versions of things, the two
Yeah.
long version of Blue Sway with the orchestra. There's some really cool stuff. I love that album quite a bit.
Oh, me too.
And
That's
yeah, it's a very, very cool and quirky album. And the deluxe set's fantastic. And yeah, the Prince deluxe sets are really great. I would love to hear a Cameo deluxe set with like things they didn't put on this album, things they didn't put
right.
on She's Strange.
Strange cameos is nice and right. Yeah. That's
Yeah. It's funny. Nice to Saute was like also I really like that album.
mhm.
It's really cool. And
Yeah, excuse me. It was, yeah, again, for me, it was one of those like, no, this isn't the Cameo album I want.
yeah, you want the one. I want the one with Shake Your Pants.
It's a,
It's a yeah, that's a cool record too. But uh, I'm still I'm still you know I'm still in this one.
oh,
There's there is a it's funny. So I was talking to somebody about Cameo. They're like, oh yeah, Word Up, and I was like, yeah, definitely Word Up.
that's
Yes to Word Up.
yeah, but that's their Purple Rain. No?
Yeah, exactly. That's like the one where everybody found out who they were, and it's like, okay, cool, like,
Yeah,
Cameo from Word Up. Um,
but listen
I,
to this.
yeah, it's funny. As I went to see them also in Oakland on the Word Up tour, and I got a T-shirt, and then I was looking for something that didn't say Word Up because I didn't want people to think I was a discoverer.
Uh-huh.
So it really made me like, man, don't you have anything that says, feel me on it or something else? So I found,
Cameos.
yeah, cameos. I found one that said flirt,
uh,
and so I was like, okay, let's let's a couple albums back, and that at least shows that I go back a little
right.
further. So I got I got the shirt that said flirt, but people thought I was trying to announce I was a flirt. I was not. I was just trying to prove my OG Cameo stuff.
We need to come out with like cards, like or ID badges.
Yeah,
you know,
certified OG, or like your
phone.
ticket from an old show or something. But I literally remember. I remember like looking at the t-shirts, going, "Isn't there something that doesn't say Word Up that so I can show?" And I also remember this at that concert in Oakland. I remember that there was God, the things you remember when you start talking about these things. I remember these two dudes bumping into each other, and one was a huge guy, and one was a smaller guy.
Uh,
And and it was the smaller guy that bumped into the big guy. He was like dancing around. Bam! He bumps into this big guy. He turns around and looks at him. The dude just look at him like that. And then the small guy, he looks at him. He said, "I hope you don't whip out the jammy and flat blast both of us." Because that Orange Juice song was out at the time. And that's cracked up the other dude. And it was all good. And it was very funny interaction to witness because we're all there for music. So the other guy was trying to be cool. He was like, and that dude was big. That was he was sort of looked like an Orange Juice Jones type of dude. And I think the smaller guy was a little like, oh shit. But that's what he said in order to lighten the mood. And then it lightened the mood, and everything was good.
right
But
now, see, folks,
yeah, you can de-escalate with
right,
quotes from lyrics. With lyrical quotes, you can de-escalate. Power music, man.
right.
Power music.
Like like Ice-T says, my lethal weapon is my mind.
Yes, there you go. See, and so he got himself out. The guy didn't look that pissed in the first place, but I think
Right.
it just helped him. It helped everybody there,
Yes.
like, and they laughed, and then we all laughed, and then oh, and I remember this. Larry Blackman came out of a coffin at the beginning of that show, and give me right. I could be wrong. I made that up, but that in my memory, watching that tour, Larry Blackman came out of a coffin, and it was fantastic. You know, like how come he's in the coffin? And when he came out and singing, it was impactful and very cool for I was an older teenager, um, and it was an amazing show, and I was really happy to see them.
uh, like I said, I gotta go back and check all the old tickets. Like, okay, I know I've seen them. I had to have.
Yeah, I'm shocked that you haven't seen them. I've seen them more than once. I only saw Gap Band once. Um, I actually never. I met Roger Troutman and I met his brother Larry, but I did not
Uh,
meet. I did not. I never saw them live.
mm,
So that's a bother. I remember people talking about how incredible they were live too, like just
yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
Because they came to floor everybody else that hit the stage, right? They wanted to knock everybody out.
oh yeah, yeah,
And Roger was so talented. He was just crazy, crazy talented. Uh, Such a loss that we had in this music
yeah.
to lose him. He was so talented and so good and really friendly. I remember sitting in. It was at USF. He came and did a KUSF interview before he played the I Beam in the Haight Ashbury district,
Oh
which is
wow.
a club that's gone now,
So,
and it's kind of a small venue for him.
mm,
But he was touring as Roger, and he had his Moog with him, and he brought it to the studio. They hooked it up, and I sat like right next to him while he. I wasn't interviewing him, but I knew the people at KSF at the time, and so I got to watch the whole thing,
nice.
and see him like, you know, put his talk box together and do that. And he was very nice, and I recorded the whole thing, and got his autograph, and met his brother, and that was really sad when he was killed later
Yeah,
by his brother. This is like really tragic.
yeah. I know. Just a huge, serious loss with that.
Yeah,
Just when it refreshes, it's kind of like, like with Marvin Gaye, same,
those sorts of
same
things
thing.
are they are at the level of tragic
Yeah,
when a family member murders another family member. It is tragic,
yeah,
and
yeah.
nothing good comes from that.
No, no,
And you know, and I don't know the story there with the trauma, what happened exactly, but
it
um,
was. I mean, obviously, money was
mm,
the thing. I think Larry was taking money, taking a percentage or something was
mm,
going on, and Roger went to confront him, and then that's when
mm,
it all happened.
yeah, that's very very sad.
Yeah, and like I said,
Um,
I'm just those, like I said, just those live performances, just the enjoyment of the records, and I know the episode I did on the four greatest funk bands, their impact, not just when they were having hit records, but you know, like with Cameo and with Zap, how they were able to kind of ride that wave of hip hop and survive it, not by conforming to what hip hop was doing, but, just staying on course and still being influential
hmm
with it. And it's,
Yeah, and incorporating rap style vocals and a lot of stuff. Like
yeah.
there's that version of She's Strange with the full on rap, right?
Oh, yeah. The
Um,
12-inch
the 12
single.
inch, which is a
Yeah.
really cool version. And he wasn't scared at all of trying that and figuring out how to do things within that. And also being from the East Coast, probably hearing that early on, kind of was probably helped to know how to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of I think when hip hop started to ascend, and took a while for it to become mainstream. Now it is the mainstream music.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people were like, oh, what do we do to contend with this? As it started to ascend as a type of music that the larger audiences would like. It's really interesting for people like us who've been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm not saying we are hip hop pioneers. I'm saying
No.
I am saying that we were alive, and being as music fans and young musicians, we were watching how this happened. It was really interesting to see. I don't know if I would have predicted, as much as I liked it as a drummer and a writer, there's nothing more attractive to me than music that focuses on rhythm and words. So that's a really natural thing for me to like that music. So, but I don't know if I would have predicted, oh yeah, this will take over and be the pop music for my kids. I don't think I would have predicted that.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of off topic, I remember kind of, being 13, it was like, fall of 79, showing up to school one morning, and it was like this big crowd. And I'm thinking like, man, there's a fight this early.
Gotta be a fight, yeah.
And so I get up to see what's going on, and actually it wasn't a fight at all. It was a friend of mine named Andre, and somehow he had memorized the entire 15 minutes of Rapper's Delight. I hadn't heard it, and I think a lot of people, either they've heard it and was amazed that he knew all 15 minutes of it, or like me, like, what is this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a WESL. They were the first Black radio station here to play hip hop. In fact, they broke that record. So it was a matter like every time once I got home from school, it was like turning on WESL, like, oh man, I can't wait till they play it. And I think eventually, like later that night, they played it. Okay. And it was like, yeah, I got to have this. But it, back then it was like to me, it felt like more like a novelty.
Right. Yeah, when you first heard that.
Right.
And it was presented kind of as a novelty.
Right. But then later, I think what's the next thing I heard? Like Freedom, Grandmaster Flash.
Freedom. That's Freedom was the clincher for me.
Yeah.
Was absolutely the clincher. I thought, like the horns. I didn't get the sampling bit. And of course, you and I were not in the Bronx. We're in the South Bronx, so we were seeing all the cultural things that were happening around.
Right, exactly.
We were just receiving this music from different parts of the country, going, "This is cool. It's different."
Right.
But yeah, Freedom clinched it for me because I just loved the different people and the names. I just thought that was cool.
Cowboy, Millie.
Yeah, and Mr. Ness, who was my favorite, and I just thought, oh, I love this whole thing. I love everything about this. That like it's sort of like poetry being spoken out loud, and it's funky beats, and you couldn't have invented a music that appealed to me more.
Exactly.
So I was like, this is great. But again, as much as I liked it, I just thought, oh, this is for me and people like me. I didn't know, I could have never said, oh, and in 40 years it'll be the pop music in America.
Right. Yeah, it was like, just like one of the musics then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to reminisce on those days because, yeah, I didn't memorize all of Rapper's Delight, but I memorized Master G's parts, and I remember doing that at school and just like doing it to impress people or to show people I knew. I remember in English class doing that. Yeah, every time you saw someone good at it, a crowd would gather. Someone would know. Yeah, someone would know the whole song, or someone would know this verse, and it was like cool to have it memorized and to do things, or even the breaks.
Yeah, Curtis Blow.
Curtis Blow. These are the breaks. Wow.
Oh,
yeah, those were good. Those were good times to discover those things.
Yeah.
It was all very mysterious because you didn't know, how were you going to get a hold of it? Somebody would have some raggedy tape of something. Listen to this. Yeah. I think that's even how I heard. We talked about Jerry Knight earlier. I think that's even how I heard Jerry Knight's stuff. First was on a tape that my
Mm.
brother had. I think he had Overnight Sensation on a tape, and I was like, "Oh, I like this artist." And to this day, I still can't find his stuff. You know, I look for it all the time, and I've
Yeah.
been in these R&B groups or funk groups going, "Does anybody have a Jerry Knight CD?" And it's always like,
What?
and then somebody was like, they sent me some other artist named Jerry Knight. Like, here you go. You know, sort of like minimal research, not bothering to check what I was actually asking for.
Extra four, right?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, here. I'm like, that's not the Jerry Knight I'm looking for.
Overnight sensation.
Yeah, perfect fit.
And again, like I said, I think why we gravitated towards this album for this topic, it's a perfect example of just the magic of discovery.
For sure, it is. It's like one of those ones where you're like, okay, yeah, I love Cameo, I love the Alligator Woman, I'll pick this up. Style, I liked it. It for me, it sounded a bit like Be Yourself. So I was
Hmm.
like, and I love Be Yourself. So I was like, okay,
Oh, to me, I,
yeah,
I think hands down that was my favorite because I remember when that was on the radio, and I'm like, man,
hmm,
this is Cameo. Oh,
it just sounds
and
so
that bass,
raw.
yeah.
Bow,
Dun, dun, dun. And
bow,
I
bow,
wasn't even playing
bow.
bass then, but yeah, but that just grabbed my attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's very attention grabbing.
Yeah.
And then style kind of rides that kind of groove, but then
Yeah.
adds those synths, and you're like, okay, so they kind of took that, kept going with it, but then they go in other directions, and on the record, again looking at those first three opening songs,
Oh,
Aphrodisiac, This Life Is Not For Me, and Your Winner, are just really strong right out. Just like here's our sound, um, and it's unique, and it's
mhm.
not doesn't sound like what anybody else was doing in funk or R&B at the time.
Right.
Like Cameo was. They always sort of like, here was mainstream R&B and funk, and here's the Minneapolis sound and solar and stuff, and then Cameo was just sort of like, here's this very singular
Singular.
kind of funk thing.
Right.
And that's what I always appreciated about them, and they kept doing what they do,
Dude.
and I admire the hell out of artists who just keep doing what they do. Um, it's funny. I was thinking we haven't talked about this at all, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Cameo stuff, but I was thinking recently. Well, an artist who I think we've talked about before, but I've just realizing I've always loved him, but I have to say I love him even more now. Chuck D, I just feel
Yeah.
is like the pinnacle of integrity in the music industry. Like this, that's a person who's like, I'm doing this, and I don't care what you think. I'm gonna keep doing this,
Yes.
and I'm gonna keep innovating. And I've, he can draw. He's a pretty amazing visual
Yeah.
artist. He doesn't. Um, he doesn't compromise his stuff. He keeps doing, like, the whole record that he did that Paris wrote, is really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
The,
Yeah.
the solo album is really strong. The record he did after Trayvon Martin, Evil Empire of Everything, strong.
Yeah.
There's just, and this new book he put out, strong. It's just, and but he stays where Chuck D should be, and is, to me,
Never.
just
Yeah.
pinnacle of integrity. Like,
Yeah.
just really someone to admire, and they're,
Ex-
all the way around. Like, there's plenty of people to admire for their talent or whatever, but he's a visionary.
mhm.
He's a man of integrity. He's a fantastic MC and writer.
Yeah.
He's a really great conceptualist and designer. Just like it, he's so much to admire in one package. And why did I bring up Chuck D? And I just wanted to shout that out. That I will never waver from being a
That's
big Chuck D fan.
that's right. This is why this is Amari music talk now, so that way we can slip in different
Yeah,
things.
yeah. And that's not to say it's. I guess the thing is the same with Cameo. Like, I feel like that they were as singular. Like, they did their thing, and they were like, this is what we do. It's not going to necessarily sound like what other things that are happening in R&B and funk.
Right.
We do this, and either your ear gets it or it doesn't. And sometimes the masses get it, like with Word Up, or Single Life was also pretty big, right?
Mm.
And or She's Strange, people still play that at clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, their singularity is one of the things that I really admire that in artists in general. Uh, people people who have this aesthetic and are like, and continue to evolve within it,
Mm.
but don't you know try to I don't want to say try to change, because changing is good in that sense, but just kind of know who they are, and within that kind of fixture continue to evolve and do their thing, like they have a thing. Does
Yeah.
that make any sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was picking up on the whole evolution thing, because yeah, with the earlier albums, they still had their own, concept, their own style. But it was still, you can have that like funkadelic influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of once it got past Alligator Woman, maybe starting with this one, then it started to kind of, like you said, they evolved their sound. It was still, dead heavy on the funk, but then there are these different layers, like you pointed out on the liner notes, too. It's a 20th century bebop as opposed to just, you know, pure funkadelic. And it goes into those different directions. Even their ballads.
Even the ballads, for sure, the
Right.
ballads.
Yeah. Now,
Underrated.
yeah, because my personal memory, um, whether it was just hearing, the other kids in passing, especially I think like, well, grade school was when Sparkle was out. And that just seems to be the only ballad that they remember,
Right.
is Sparkle, nobody talks about, like you said, Heaven Only Knows,
Or even Feel Me, which is a
Feel Me,
fantastic
exactly.
ballad.
Yeah.
And there's one on Nights of the Sound Table that's really great too. I can't remember the title right now. There's a ballad on there that's also real pretty. But Tommy Jenkins and Charlie Singleton sing, really do so much nice things vocally on this record. You like it, yeah, to me, Heaven Only Knows is extraordinary. It's really
Mm.
like, and there's a bunch of, and there's even on She's Strange and Alligator Woman, there are nice ballads. You're right. A lot of people are like, oh, Sparkle, because that was like a
Yeah.
great slow dance jam
Yeah. That,
in the
the
late
jam
'70s. That was
for then. Yeah.
that was the yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, it's almost always and forever level.
Yeah,
You
it's
know, for
close.
it's close. It's it's close for sure, right? It's like, okay, that's like, if you were to like time travel back to 1979, and it's like, what are the slow dance jams? You would be, those two would be right in there,
Yeah,
right? Or
exactly.
some parties it would be Reasons, the long version of Reasons,
The reasons. Yeah.
um,
The live
the
version.
live version. Um,
Yeah.
those are slow dance jams that kind of never, for our generation, um, are just perennial. And but since then they've done so many other things. It's kind of like, people do tend to cement artists in that um, era where they know them best, where they hit the commercial peak,
Right.
or popularity peak in whatever area it is. But so many artists do so many other things, and continue to do stuff. Uh, you can't really blame audiences, because they are dependent on what's being fed to them by media, and if they're not explorers in terms of music, they're not going to Bandcamp and checking out new artists, or
Yeah.
checking out what their formally signed artists are now doing independently. They're gonna go, oh yeah, I know they did that thing, but oh yeah, there's this whole other world of stuff. You know, it's like somebody. I mean, I'm not thinking you not understand what I'm saying. I'm trying to think of
No,
more
that's good.
examples. I'm thinking of like Jesse Johnson, like somebody, just knowing that first album and not knowing anything about like Bare My Naked Soul, like just go, oh wow, oh, he does all that too. Like there's that other thing of if you don't follow the artist, you don't always know what it is they offer. And so many
Mm,
artists offer more than what their commercial peak has demonstrated.
right. Which I guess probably a good place to try to wrap it up. But that that thing of, when do we lose track
Mm.
of our favorite artists? Like I said, one of the reasons I did that funk bands one, because it just occurred to me like, okay, yeah, I know I talk about the time a lot, and they're great, but man, Cameo, it's like
Yes.
they weren't just, they had a bunch of funky hits and
Mm-hmm.
a few great ballads in there as well. Again, back to Zap, the Gap Band,
Mm-hmm.
Charlie
A lot of
Wilson's
great songs.
right. And when I was kind of doing some of the research, because I think probably out of those four, I think I lost track of the Gap Band
Mm.
the most. Because like I have Gap Band 3, I have Gap Band 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I didn't get 5.
Wow. Yeah. If you fell off at 4.
Well, it wasn't, because I mean, I remember, I guess with with videos coming into play and everything, you still had, Party Train was like in heavy rotation. But I think by that particular time, it was like Purple Rain Mania.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So that's probably why I ended up losing track of the Gap Band. But even after 5, I think they still had a couple of albums, even though they weren't huge chart successes. They was still, would still hold up with, the classic Gap Band 3. And
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
I mean, 5 to me is better than 4 in some ways.
Mm.
Um, uh, there's some really strong songs on there and really great singing and some cool sounds. I think in terms of monster hits and hooks,
Mm.
4 kind of has it beaten because you can't really top Early in the Morning, Drop the Bomb on Me, and Outstanding.
Outstanding,
Those are
exactly.
just like, those just kill everything in sight. They're just so strong.
Right.
But 5 is also really strong, and the 2 ones after that, I mean, Beep a Freak. I like to Beep a Freak. You know.
Okay. See, I remember that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think again, that was sort of just my personal memory. Like I said, that Purple Mania just kind of started to dominate. I would say between that and some hip hop, it just started to dominate.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and
My
I gotta look it up now. But there was a song on their 6th or 7th album where the, I can picture the groove right now. Um, I'm at picture. I can imagine the sound of the groove right now, and it was man. I'm looking it up right now because it's gonna drive me crazy. Um, was it on 7? What was the track? Desire.
is that 6 or 7?
That was on 7, and that was cool too. I thought Desire was cool. I remember the video. I remember saw the video on. Do you remember that show, Video Soul?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw
So
Video Soul, and then here in the Bay Area there was something called Magic Number Video, and I think they played on Channel 48, and I think they
mm,
played it then too. And then on that one, um, uh, they do a cover of "Going in Circles,"
yep.
the Jerry Peters song, and it's like, you're a kid and you're not really thinking. You're just thinking about what's hitting you at the moment, and you're into funk, and you're like, "Oh, I like this," and you don't think about Charlie Wilson as in the continuum of great R&B singers. Like at least not for me. I was always thinking this is a funk band that I like.
Uh,
But so it was interesting, like to go and be reminded, like it's a really phenomenal vocalist here in this band, and
mm,
he's definitely part of that continuum. And he's later went on, obviously, people understand it that way. But being a young kid, you're not thinking, yes, Charlie Wilson definitely should be located in this continuum. That's not how it's hitting you. So you go like, why is he doing this old song? That's what I
Uh-huh.
remember thinking. Like, why is he doing this old song? Why isn't it more down, 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 down? Well, I want that. I don't want covers of old R&B songs from the Gap Band. But now being an older person, you get what he was doing and what that is, and it's funny. Just as with the little years behind you, you learn to
Yeah,
shut your mouth a little more and see what it is. What was good about what they were doing.
yeah. It's an interesting time. Um, where, and I'm noticing this amongst the Prince set now, where there's this kind of like this ageism that's starting to set in, and it's not just, young folks putting down the old folks, it's the old folks putting down
Mm-hmm.
the young folks. And and I think just with what we're talking about, again, why we kind of gravitated towards this album, it really challenges our perceptions, what we were really thinking at, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then, the 30, 40-year history. And then looking back and going like, wait, this was a great album.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't it get the airplay? Or why didn't I pay more attention to this?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, a lot of our favorite artists. Now, for me, you're talking about Jesse Johnson, yeah, where people might have bought like the A&M
Mm-hmm.
albums, and those had like the hits, and may not be aware of Bare My Naked Soul or Verbal Penetration, which to
Mm-hmm.
me, I'll say are Jesse's best albums,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I know you're a big fan of Verbal Penetration, right?
right,
And yeah, there are people that don't even know those albums exist. You know.
yeah, they're both out of print now, which is sad. Which hopefully Jesse, if you're listening, bring them back. Reach them on vinyl or CD or
Or something. And
something.
it brings us back to this.
To
It's
this
like it's
too, yes.
to be like this kind of classic record that people who know it's great, and we would love to hear a remastered version. We'd love to have these kinds of discussions to celebrate them because they didn't get as celebrated as we feel that they ought to be. And there's a bunch of records like that
Yeah.
made by significant artists whose particular creation didn't do much commercially, but
Mhm.
doesn't mean that artistically it was anything less than the things that brought them fame and fortune in the first place. It's it is it's funny. It's funny how the marketplace works like that. You know, some of these great works of art are in all kinds of disciplines or can be overlooked, but then
Yeah.
we get a chance to talk about them and and at least say points of view. There's going to be some people here that maybe watch your stuff for the Prince discussions or for general funk discussions, and maybe they also didn't take a listen to that album. If we get a
Yeah.
couple people to go back and find or stream it or whatever and be like, yeah, this was cool.
Yeah. And
I'll feel happy about that.
yeah. And, hopefully, hey, go to your local record store and see if, they can get a hold of a copy, or, write into the record label, find out who owns the masters and say, hey, we want this out, on see, it's cool. We got, whoever, the Beatles or whoever, they're getting reissues and all kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But, Cameo is one of those bands that, deserve to still be heard in the 21st century. And,
Mm-hmm.
and not just us guys that were there, in the 70s and the 80s, but, there are, musicians, guys and girls, young musicians that are the ages that we were then. And, they're picking up drums, they're picking up bass guitars or rhythm guitars or even saxophones. And, that, may want to hear this music and get inspired by it. Or even if you're not a young musician, just somebody that loves records, like you
Mm-hmm.
getting into the vinyl for the first time, or CDs, or, even if you're just streaming and just like to, hear different things, regardless of if it's old or new.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
For a younger generation, it's good to have. I mean, because there's so much stuff that's available. Um, it's good to have. It's like leaving pieces out. It's like leaving out part of a story, right?
Right.
So if you're gonna have all these other things available, I saw that recently. Wendy and Lisa's Eroicas, because of fan advocacy, their stuff is now streaming, right?
Right. Oh, so
Um,
Aroka is now out on streaming.
that's what I saw. I saw one of them posting about it, saying, thank you for your advocacy. Um, because of you, it's now up. And Eroka to me is a fantastic album.
I know. That's what I still have to get that on physical media. That was just on the strength of your review.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I just love that record. I just think it marries a whole bunch of things that are great about Wendy and Lisa and their compositional strengths and their playing strengths and their conceptual strengths, and into one really cool record. Um, it's very emotional, very funky, um, and it also feels very Californian in a way. Just I really like the feel of that album quite a bit.
Yeah. So yep, there it is. It's on title.
Right, right on.
Okay, so I know what I'm going to be listening to a little bit later.
That's cool.
So
Well, thank you
cool.
so much for this opportunity to talk about one of my favorite albums of all time,
Uh,
Cameo Style. Please go
Anytime.
stream
Thanks.
it.
Thanks for refreshing my memory on this. I don't know, any final word on it or?
um, no, I just want to say thank you to the group that made it. Thank you for
Yes.
inspiring me. You definitely inspired me with this record, and and congratulations for making this cool record that I think holds up over time and
Oh yeah.
continues
And
to inspire people.
yeah, just like I said, just revisiting it and getting that refresher course, it's inspiring me for a few things. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
not
that's a beautiful
maybe
thing.
not
But
the project coming up, but the one after.
right, because the inspiration can be for any of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I say, we encourage everyone that hasn't heard it. Definitely it's on streaming for sure. You may be able to find the vinyl, go on your Discogs or whatever. You can probably
Definitely find it.
find it for reasonable. The CD, okay, record companies. We want this reissue. We want it on CD. We want the 180-gram vinyl. We want the remaster,
Definitely
the
want a
deluxe
remaster
edition.
and an affordable CD price.
Yes, there you go. At cost-effective prices. All right, nice. So, yep. So that'll end this episode of Amari Purple Talk. Mr. PC Munoz, thank you once again for blessing the mic.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
I don't know. I think it's what are we doing now next? Is it? I guess Jesse Johnson now, huh?
Could be Jesse. I'm open to anything. I love these conversations.
Yeah, I do too. I can't wait to get this one up on the social media. This was a long time coming for this one.
Yeah,
I remember when you first
again,
brought the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about style.
Style. Yeah, I remember. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and finally did it, and I think it was cool. And we found a lot of other things to talk about in between, and I think it's a compelling convo.
Oh yeah, that's why I enjoy doing this. All right, and then
thank you so much, man.
Oh no, thank you. And then I guess tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at pcmunoz.com. That's pcmunoz.com. That's my main website. If you want to skip all the reading bios and stuff, you can just go straight to my Bandcamp page, pcmunoz, pcmunoz.bandcamp.com. Lots of music there.
Yes, a lot of it is funky. And
Funky.
you know, a lot of it is great art. You know, check it out, listen to it, just sit back and absorb the sounds. Yeah, so definitely. Yeah. Of course, I don't. We got some stuff in the vault, but
It's true. I got a track called "The Devil Finds Work" in this
yeah,
particular moment.
yeah. Like I said, anytime you
And
want me to
other stuff.
redo those.
Might need to revisit "Devil Finds Work" for sure. That was cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So definitely, yes, yes, yeah, definitely check him out on his Bandcamp, and you know, pick up his physical media, listen to him on streaming, and support his Bandcamp page. And he will definitely be back for the next installment or future installment of Amari Music Talk. And thank you out there for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you're on Patreon, become a Patreon supporter and get exclusive content or early access to Amari Music Talk
Very cool.
episodes. And that will end this episode. And thank you for tuning in. Remember, create your day, create your life. Peace.
Peace.